Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. I am your host for this afternoon, and I could be more excited tonight because tonight we get to see the start of Shohei Ohtani in his pitching debut for the Los Angeles Dodgers against one of the Dodgers' division rivals, against the San Diego Padres. It's going to be a thrilling, exciting night of baseball for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I couldn't be more excited about that. The Dodgers just got off of taking 2 out of 3 against the San Francisco Giants. I'm still excited about that because that means that the Dodgers are up 2 games in the division. It is right now a good day to be a Los Angeles Dodger, and I couldn't be more excited to be able to interact with you guys talking about the excitement of Los Angeles Dodgers baseball here tonight, or here this afternoon on June 16th, 2025. It will be Shohei Ohtani's first start in a Los Angeles Dodgers uniform. We'll be talking a little bit about that, perhaps what exactly to expect for that, some things to know a little bit going into this Padres series based off of certain matchups, certain players that they may or may not face against this series, and what is our overall expectations for Shohei Ohtani, what is our overall expectations for the pitching staff going forward, not just for this week, but for weeks to come. We'll be diving into that, a little bit of that as well as do a little bit of something from down on the farm, give you a little bit of an update of where the Dodgers hitting system is right now. Posted a little bit of something on that on X, so we'll be able to dive into that a little bit. But first, I want to make sure that you guys are the focus of the crowd tonight. Obviously, I don't live in Los Angeles. This is the first time that Shohei is going to be pitching in Dodger Stadium. So if you get the privilege of being able to watch Shohei Ohtani pitch in Los Angeles tonight, congratulations. That's going to be super exciting for you. I'll be watching it on TV like the rest of you guys, but I want to interact with you guys. William Andrews, it's showtime. That's absolutely right. Carol S., the day that we have been waiting for has finally come. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights is joining us as well. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday and go Dodgers. Carol S. Honestly, I don't care how well Ohtani does. It's going to be progress, but it would be amazing if he did great. Yes, no, that's absolutely right. We'll get into that in just a second. Chuck Huddleston, thank you very much for joining us. CNAV, Christopher Navarro, thank you very much for joining us as well. Al Minerva, he could just be an opener, and that's a successful start. Yes, so let's break this down a little bit, because actually it was during the live show that Casey and Coach Barrakoff were doing last night, in which the news broke from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, leading into the show, there was some rumblings that Shohei Ohtani was going to be a part of an opener leading into the series, meaning that at some point during the Padres series, he was going to be an opener, which I think, based on my mind or based on the timelines that a lot of people had projected, wasn't something that a lot of people were anticipating. And then it broke during the show last night, and the Dodgers account tweeted this out officially, that Shohei Ohtani was not only going to pitch against the San Diego Padres this week, but he is pitching at that point tomorrow. Now it is today. Shohei Ohtani is pitching today. Now, with Shohei Ohtani, I think because of the type of player that he is, which he is the only player in Major League Baseball that is like this, I think because of the uniqueness of the player that he is, this allows the Dodgers to be able to structure his quote-unquote rehab or quote-unquote build-up in this way. No other player in Major League Baseball would be going through this exact same progression that Shohei Ohtani would. And the reason why is because of the roster profile that Shohei Ohtani is. Shohei Ohtani, the special thing about him, and one of the many reasons why the Dodgers paid $700 million to get Shohei Ohtani, was because he acts like the bonus pitcher. Most times, and under every single other Major League roster, you have 13 pitchers that you can have on your roster. Shohei Ohtani, because he counts both offensively and on the pitching side, and because they're using him as an offensive player, allows the Dodgers to be able to have an extra pitcher that no other organization is able to have. They're able to have a 14th pitcher on their roster when all other teams have 13 pitchers. Because of that, and because of the uniqueness of Shohei Ohtani, where they want to keep him continually in this lineup on a every single day basis, which rightfully so, Shohei Ohtani is one of the best hitters in the game of baseball. They are in a position to where in the rehab outings, it didn't make sense, unlike other pitchers, to have him be down at the minor league level. You want to keep him in Los Angeles. So then the question becomes, at a certain point when Shohei Ohtani is doing pretty well, or the stuff is looking pretty well, do you continue to go on a progress of him facing minor league hitters or facing some of the guys that might be resting on the day and some sort of simulated action? Or without having to make a roster move with the other pitchers, which this is so key to Shohei Ohtani, and this is why the Dodgers are so lucky to be able to have this situation. If this was, let's say, an Emmett Sheehan, or if this was a, just talking about some of the other guys that are injured, not saying, let's say it was a Kyle Hurt or a Gavin Stone, whenever those guys are going to be coming back and be part of the mix, they would not even be close to being put on the major league roster for this, because they would have to take the spot of a different pitcher that is on the roster. Shohei Ohtani is unique because he does not take an opportunity away from somebody else that is on the roster, meaning that you still have all of your other bullpen arms that are part of the mix while being able to throw Shohei Ohtani out there. While Shohei Ohtani is building up, which, if we're talking about the game today, it is, I don't know exactly what to expect. My best guess would be that it would be more of an opener, as people have said, type of situation, meaning that it's only going to be an inning, maybe 2 innings, although I won't fully expect that. I would lean more towards, we're going to throw 1 inning and then see where things are at this point. That at least would be my best guess of judgment of how they would approach this situation. But Shohei Ohtani can do that instead of facing against rehabbing guys or in simulated game type of situation. Why not do this? Take some of the innings, take some of the pressure off some of the other guys, and with outings that Shohei Ohtani was already going to be having, put him in a situation where it's a big league type of situation. It is a little bit risky, but anytime you're trying to build guys up and have them recover from rehab, it's going to be a risky situation anyway. And I think with Shohei Ohtani, if he feels comfortable making this call, if the Dodgers feel comfortable, which you know the situation where the Dodgers are at injury-wise with pitchers, you know how concerning that is and how much they're going to need their arms going into the postseason. And Shohei Ohtani is going to be a massive part of that plan. If they feel comfortable with this path, if Dave Roberts, if the athletic trainers, all those people feel comfortable with this type of situation, then you have a chance to do something that no other organization could or would do. Not just with the uniqueness of having a Shohei Ohtani, but also the uniqueness of being able to have a guy basically rehab at the big league level without taking away any of the pitchers on your roster. Logistically, this is a great move for the Dodgers, even if it is just an inning or 2 at a time, because that's 1 or 2 innings that the rest of the pitching staff doesn't necessarily have to eat. And then you talk about that's just talking about the role that Shohei Ohtani plays, and that's not even grasping on the quality of innings that Shohei Ohtani is going to be able to pitch. And let's remember just how good of a pitcher Shohei Ohtani is when he was on the mound. I want to go over some of his career numbers as a pitcher, because I think we often forget just how good of a pitcher Shohei Ohtani was. So in his career, he's had 86 games in which he has started, 481 and 2/3 innings, so a large sample size. A 3.01 ERA with a 3.31 FIP and 3.29 expected FIP. You're talking about, when he's on the mound, one of the better pitchers in the game of baseball. Strikeout percentage during his entire career of about 31%, walk percentage about 9%. Now, I don't think it is fair to immediately expect, coming off of a long-term injury on the mound, immediately the Shohei Ohtani, who was that type of pitcher, who has a career ERA of about 3. I don't think that's a fair expectation for Shohei Ohtani, but that is the quality of pitcher that you are dealing with. And with Shohei Ohtani, you're going to have to find some sort of way to be able to ramp him up and build him up if you want him to be part of this rotation going forward. And I think with the position that the Dodgers are at, and with the necessity to have additional pitchers be part of your mix, I think this is a way for them to be able to go out and pitch Shohei Ohtani, have him go out and face a couple of different batters, work on the rehab as he goes along, as a minor league rehab, but at the major league level where they can work on a lot of different things. I think this is one of the only paths that they could do going forward once it got to a certain point of him being healthy, meaning they're not going to send him down to Rancho. As much as I would love him to be sent over to Great Lakes, I don't think that is going to happen with Shohei Ohtani. Since this is one of the only options that they can have, and since they feel comfortable enough to do it, they're rolling with it. And Shohei Ohtani is starting on the mound tonight for your Los Angeles Dodgers. As far as the rest of the pitching plan goes this week, it's going to be a little bit unique. Dodgers obviously are dealing in a stretch where now they play 4 games against the San Diego Padres. They're going to be playing 10 games in 10 days. So they've got 4 against the San Diego Padres, followed by 3 against the Washington Nationals, all at home. And this week, as far as the pitching plan, today, Shohei Ohtani is going to be the opener. As far as what happens after Shohei Ohtani, that still remains a question mark. And I've been trying to figure out, okay, it's one of 2 guys that's going to eat bulk innings, which I think, regardless of whether you see one of them tonight, the other one's going to be likely going to get bulk innings tomorrow. You're likely over the course of the next 2 days going to see bulk innings for a Ben Casparius, who last pitched on the 11th, and a Matt Sauer, who last pitched on the 10th. The only reason why there's a question mark, even though Matt Sauer pitched earlier than Ben Casparius, meaning Matt Sauer has gotten more rest, is because Matt Sauer threw 110 pitches during his last outing, whereas Ben Casparius threw about 50 or so pitches. So, and I think the expectation going into yesterday before this bombshell was announced was that Ben Casparius was likely to eat a majority of the innings during the game tonight. That remains a little bit of a question mark as far as what is going to happen tonight. I don't know what the game plan is, and perhaps it's determined by what happens early in the game, because tomorrow, regardless of who pitches, is likely to be more of a bullpen type of game. So tonight, you're looking for some bulk innings, maybe use a couple of relievers, but tomorrow is going to be a little bit more of the bulk inning type of game for the Dodgers, followed by Wednesday. It sounds like the expectation is that Emmett Sheehan is going to be activated, which very likely could be a move for a Matt Sauer, potentially optioned back down after the game today, which the only reason why I would potentially think that they could use a Matt Sauer today is because they could potentially option him tomorrow and bring up another arm in preparation for the game on Wednesday. Don't necessarily know what to do. We've seen Jack Little be in the Dodgers clubhouse, at least for the past couple of days. He is not currently, at least as far as my understanding, on the 40-man roster. On the 26-man roster, he's there as part of a taxi squad, so he would require some sort of move. So if they use Matt Sauer tonight, potentially that's an opportunity to make Jack Little be part of the bullpen game before potentially optioning him or somebody else down to move Emmett Sheehan, be part of the mix. But it sounds like Emmett Sheehan and maybe a Justin Robleski piggyback start on Wednesday before Thursday. They'll go with, I think it's Yamamoto. I think they'll go with Yamamoto on Thursday. That's the pitching plan, I believe, for the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani, obviously, is the exciting news tonight. And we'll get into a couple of comments here before we continue to go on, talking a little bit of Dodgers versus Padres, because the Dodgers get a little bit lucky, at least with the situation that some of the Padres players are dealing with and the matchups that the Dodgers are going against with the Padres, and we'll talk about different expectations from there. Let's go into here. Chuck Huddleston, it sounds to me Ohtani made the decision that it was showtime. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of those types of comments on here. Absolutely. That seems to be the indication for Shohei Ohtani. If he feels comfortable and the organization feels comfortable, they both have to be working in the exact same direction, have very clear communication with each other. If both of them agree to that, then they'll go ahead and move forward with that decision. CNAV says, hey, Austin, it's Ohtani time. I believe he's been built up to 55 pitches or 3 innings. We'll see how much they decide to push it on this first appearance. If they want to have him go through a major league outing with an up-down. I know Casey expressed some concern about that. I don't know exactly what Casey expressed some concern about that during the show yesterday during an initial reaction to all the news that was breaking at the time. I don't know exactly what he's been built up for at this point during some of his behind the scenes at the complex level, doing some of the rehab type stuff. I don't know exactly what they've been working on with that, but whatever they feel comfortable with Shohei Ohtani, they got to make sure that they are careful with how they utilize him, because he's a necessary piece to be part of this rotation going forward. But if they feel comfortable with him going out and pitching 2 to 3 innings, as long as he's done it before and they've built him up to that level and they're not reckless about it, then Shohei Ohtani probably gives you one of the best chances to go out there and win the game. And if it's going to keep him healthy and still be able to do that, we'll see what happens. William Andrews, excited for him getting into the fold. Chuck Huddleston, they may not choose to have Ohtani do an up-down in his first outing. Yeah, that's what I'm a little bit concerned about with that. We'll see what happens. And then CNAV also heard Sheehan's next start is going to be on the MLB mound. I believe that should be Wednesday. I believe that's going to be the plan for them to be able to do that. Let's see. Jerry Magna, go get Suarez from the D-backs. Muncy isn't consistent enough. We might talk a little bit about that on a little bit of a different show. I've always been a fan of Max Muncy and what he's been able to produce, especially on the offensive side. If you want to talk defense, Max Muncy has been shaky defensively, I think, probably to say the least. Although I don't think Eugenio Suarez is the greatest defensive player at third base. Could be getting him confused with somebody else. He could be a lot better than what I had anticipated. But I think some of these similar issues you might be seeing with him. And I'm still a fan with the contract that Max Muncy has. I think he's going to be good enough for what he has. And CNAF says I'd rather try I'm going to guess Alex Freeland at third base. Who's down in the system, unless it's a different player named Kyle Freeland. Justin Lamas, thank you very much for joining us. What's up? Back to you. Let's see. Tony, the 14th pitcher rule only takes place during his starts, which is a remarkable advantage every single time that he's on the mound. Absolutely. The 14th pitcher that Shohei Ohtani is a remarkable advantage that the Dodgers have versus all other teams, which I don't think it's quite talked about enough, because I don't think Dodgers fans have realized how much of an advantage it is when Shohei Ohtani is able to be on the mound, which, yes, we want Shohei Ohtani healthy, and we need Shohei Ohtani to be part of the order. But to have him be a bonus pitcher, to have him be part of the lineup and still be able to keep all the different other arms that you have, and especially with this team needing to make sure that they are not overusing guys like a Tanner Scott, not overusing guys like an Alex Vesia, not overusing a Kirby Yates, or a lot of other guys that they will be relying upon once we get into October. Having a guy like a Shohei Ohtani, who, yes, they will be relying upon him once they get to October, but having an extra pitcher that wasn't part of your 13 pitchers be able to carry at least a small part of that burden, that small part of the burden can be really beneficial once you're going to need additional innings come October. So I think that is a absolutely huge advantage to the Los Angeles Dodgers that we underestimate just how big of an impact it has. CNAV, so Shohei is pitcher/DH. Do we lose the DH when he's replaced on the mound? No, so Major League Baseball, and this is dating back to his time in the Angels, they have kind of what is basically an Ohtani rule. I don't believe that Shohei Ohtani, him going out there on the mound and then him getting replaced and being able to play DH, I don't think his ability to play DH is going to be impacted by him going out there on the mound. I think there's a special rule that Shohei Ohtani is able to take advantage for, where he's going to be able to start, and he's also going to be able to do the exact same things he is in the batting lineup once he is eventually replaced on the mound, which should be fairly early in the game tonight. I don't have the exact rules at the top of my head, and I haven't seen it play out too much. Haven't seen, or at least in person, any Shohei Ohtani starts and him also part of the batting order, or any starts from Shohei Ohtani at least. But I believe he will be part of the batting order tonight, and it's going to be him hitting while also pitching as well. So we'll be able to see the uniqueness of that. Sauer got clobbered in his last start. Yeah, that was it was a rough game for Matt Sauer. But he did what he had to do, and he set up the Dodgers to be able to win the next game by being able to take the brunt of a lot of innings or a lot of different pitches. You remember the game. The Dodgers got embarrassed by the Padres, and it was not a fun night to be a Dodger. Similarly, when I was on the show on Saturday with Casey, and the previous night was the Dodgers versus Giants game, it was not a fun night to be a Dodgers fan for that particular game. But you know what's better than winning one game? Winning series. And the Dodgers do everything that they can to win series, especially when it's series against your division rival, especially when your division rivals are coming up close behind you in the standings. And the Dodgers were able to take advantage of that, in part because Matt Sauer, who, despite being hit pretty hard during his last appearance, was able to provide the Dodgers some innings. So the question becomes, he's going to get some more innings for the Dodgers because they're going to need some innings for him while they're dealing with some injuries to their starting pitching. Question is, does Matt Sauer get the ball tonight, or does he get the ball tomorrow? And I think whichever one it is, he very likely is going to get options the next day, either for an extra bullpen arm or for an Emmett Sheehan. I think logistically that's probably the thing, probably where things are going to be headed up for him. And so we'll see what happens from there. Delirium 9, I think Ohtani is slated for a single inning, but if he gets a clean, low pitch first, he might get a second. We'll see what happens. It is entirely dependent on whether they want to give Shohei Ohtani an up-down. It's entirely dependent on whether they want him actually to go up and pitch a second inning after he goes out and hits during the first inning, or if it's we want to just get this out of the way. We want to get the adrenaline stuff out of the way, and then we will build from here. We'll see what happens from that. So CNAF says, hit the like button. That's absolutely right. Vin 1988, hello, we just won 2 series in the division. Let's get 3. That's absolutely right. We'll get to a couple of your questions, Justin Lamas, in just a second. But I think that was a really good segue that Vin 1988 had. You entered in this stretch of 10 games in which you were playing the Padres, the Giants, and the Padres. Both teams that are coming up really close in the division. And we might talk a little bit later about Rafael Devers, who did get traded to the San Francisco Giants, who should have the Dodgers' attention after that trade. Well, we might talk about that a little bit. I'm not too invested into a lot of that stuff, meaning, for context, I probably and will probably see about 300 to 400 more hours of Great Lakes Loons baseball than I have of Boston Red Sox baseball during the course of this season. So I wouldn't call myself an expert on Rafael Devers in any sort of form, but I'm able to look at some of the numbers that he's been able to put up through the course of this season. So we might address that in a little bit. But the Dodgers entered the stretch playing the Padres, Giants, and Padres again, this time being a 4-game series. And entering this stretch, a lot of the thought process was for the Dodgers really had to survive this stretch. First time facing your division rivals, in which case they are really close, or at least really competitive in the division. And you had to do everything you can to try to avoid losing these series, because then you would put yourself in a hole. And to this point in this stretch, the Dodgers have been able to do so by winning the 3-game series against the Padres 2-1, and then against the Giants 2-1 as well. Big game yesterday. Shout out to Andy Pages, who hit the go-ahead home run. The Dodgers were able to close things out yesterday. Now you enter in this series. In this series, the Dodgers actually are at a little bit of an advantage when it comes to this specific matchup against the San Diego Padres. And I don't say that as a celebration per se. Jackson Merrill, who has meant a lot to the San Diego Padres lineup, and has done a ton of great things for the Padres and is a really dynamic, fun young player within this league. He did leave one of the games against the Arizona Diamondbacks, the previous series the Padres had against them, with some sort of injury, and was placed on the 7-day injured list, and I believe is going to, based on the timeline of when he was placed, going to miss the entirety of this 4-game series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is a sucky thing because you don't want to see players hurt, but also is a little bit of an advantage for the Los Angeles Dodgers because now you're starting to see some of the, I call a little bit of thinness within some of the later bench in the Padres lineup. And that's only because Jackson Merrill is really powerful when he's on the field. But for the Padres lineup, you look at their roster, their 13 position players right now. They have some really solid players. Fernando Tatis Jr., who has been struggling more over the past month or so. Still dynamic player. Manny Machado, still a really good player. Luis Arias, interesting player. Can put the bat on the ball. Can be have a little bit of dynamic stuff that he can do on the field. Gavin Sheets has had a really solid year, but then you get into, and then you have Jake Cronenworth, who always seems to hit the Dodgers. So you have 5 different hitters right now. Xander Bogaerts has struggled this season and is closer to an 80 WRC plus, actually comparable WRC plus wise to a Michael Conforto. Not saying they're the exact same player. I think Xander Bogaerts puts the bat on the ball more than Michael Conforto, but might not draw as much walks. He is part of the lineup. So let's say that you give them 6 of those hitters. The rest of the lineup is, I would say, a little bit more underwhelming without having a Jackson Merrill. They have just recently called up a Trenton Brooks. They have Tyler Wade, solid. Elias Diaz, Martin Maldonado, Luis Campusano, Jose Iglesias, and Brandon Lockridge. That is part of the bench for the Padres, which I think looks on paper a little bit more thin than when the Padres do have a Jackson Merrill. So that is an advantage that the Dodgers are going to have in this series, meaning they're not going up against one of the better hitters in the National League in Jackson Merrill. Also, if you look in the pitching matchup wise, the Dodgers in this 4-game series will not be facing against what is right now the Padres ace in Nick Pivetta. They will be getting Dylan Cease tonight, who did have a successful outing, and a lot of the underlying metrics remain positive for Dylan Cease because of his ability to get strikeouts. Tonight, Dylan Cease will take the mound for the Padres, but then they're throwing out there Randy Vasquez, who had a little bit of success against the Dodgers his previous appearance, and then 2 other younger arms as part of the rotation, Stephen Kolek and Ryan Bergert. So as far as the arms matchups or matchup-wise that the Dodgers have going against this series against the Padres, you would hope that at the very least the Dodgers, and this is without even knowing all of this, would be able to split 2 out of 2 against the Padres. That at least keeps them steady to where they are at against the Padres, keeps them 3 games back within the division, and then you only have, I believe, 2 more series in mid-August time frame against the Padres later in the season. But I think this is a opportunity for the Dodgers, notwithstanding some of the issues that the Dodgers are dealing with pitching-wise. But matchup-wise, you would hope that this would be a potential series in which the Dodgers could look to take 3 out of 4 against the Padres. Not talking about a sweep against the Padres. Obviously, it's 1 game at a time, but just on paper, there could be some potential advantages that the Dodgers could have going into the series. But with that, you never know what's going to happen entering the series, especially in a series as heated as Dodgers versus Padres right now, which, yes, it is still a heated series. And yes, all of this is not saying that the Padres aren't a good team. They very well are a very talented team right now that is going to be competitive and still has a ton of fight in them. But I think the Dodgers have a potential opportunity this week to even advance their division lead further if they are able to take advantage of it. The Dodgers right now, and actually they surpassed the Yankees this week, have the best offense in the game of baseball. We'll see if their pitching is able to sustain itself during the course of this week. But I'm curious with you guys, what is your expectations going into this week for the San Diego Padres? Are you looking to more of a, as we were entering this series, entering this week, this stretch, coming off the games against the Cardinals, I believe is what it was. Are you looking to survive this stretch with the Padres, or are you looking to potentially take advantage of some of these matchups coming up? We'll see what happens. Should be some fun baseball anytime that the Dodgers and Padres during the past couple of years, and right now during this time when things are heated, they go up against each other. You never really know what you're going to expect. And we'll see if the Dodgers are able to take advantage of that. Let's go into a couple of comments right now. Vin1980, I'm sure the Padres are not sad about some of the Dodgers' injuries. I fear them the most before the Mets. Yeah, the Padres, you just got to give, as much as you cannot like the Giants, as much as you cannot like the Padres, which certainly as Dodgers fans, I don't think we're big fans of a lot of things that, big fans of the Giants or the Padres or even some of the things that they do. You have to have respect for the talent level that some of these teams have, and you have to have respect for your opponents and not underestimate them in any sort of way. So I think there's a lot of respect, and man, with the Padres, with the battle that they had against the Dodgers last year, yeah, there should be a lot of respect for what the Padres and their fight that they're able to have, because they put the Dodgers on the brink, and the Dodgers bullpen really saved their butts last year. And then you had Teoscar and you had Kike Hernandez hit the 2 home runs during the game in which the Dodgers pitching staff was able to go and shut out the Padres in Game 5, and that ultimately was the opponent that helped launch the Dodgers to a World Series last year. So it was exciting to be able to see that. Justin Lamas, let's get to a couple of your comments right now. What moves do you anticipate at the deadline? So I think this is a really interesting comment. It's not something that I'm going to address completely right now, which I know is not the answer that you or a lot of people are wanting, but I don't think the Dodgers are in a situation to where they completely know that answer quite yet. The Giants made a move yesterday, and if you have not heard, this is massive news. I actually saw this right before I was at one of my dad's shows yesterday, and the Giants had made a trade with the Boston Red Sox to get Rafael Devers, the third baseman, I guess you could say, DH, really more of a DH right now, but he is, or at least has been, one of the better hitters in the game of baseball. Under a long-term contract with the Boston Red Sox, the Giants went and made a move. And actually, it was funny last night because the starter for the game, Kyle Harrison, got traded about 15 minutes prior to his scheduled start against the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Giants made a move, and they clearly are aggressive and trying to take advantage of a situation that did not turn out well for Devers and the Red Sox. And whatever opinion that you have on that move, I'm sure there can be a lot of different opinions, a lot of different takes that you have on that. What does this mean for the Dodgers, though? Because I think that's what a lot of you guys are curious about. Because the Giants are making a sign that they are all in or trying to make some sort of moves to make their team better. Now, I think coming off of this weekend, as far as the situation where the Giants are at, I think that is a team that very much is needing to have a big-time power bat as part of the order. They're just needing more offensively, which you could point to Matt Chapman being out, certainly part of that. But with the Dodgers and with their matchup, one of the biggest things that I was looking at in that series was the Giants' ability to limit the home runs and the Dodgers' ability to hit home runs off of the Giants. And the Giants gave up 7 home runs to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Dodgers were able to overpower a Giants pitching staff that had been really, really effective. And with them giving up some of the pitching depth that they had as part of their situation, they decided to move down that route and get a big power bat. Now, what do the Dodgers do to be able to counteract that? The biggest thing, and this continues to be the biggest thing as the Dodgers, as we've addressed it, we've called it like this, they're in a staying afloat type of mode. Or, as I've described it, they're stalling for time right now for their pitching injury situation. The biggest thing that the Dodgers have to take an eye out and be looking out for is the pitching. It is far greater of a concern than what's going on with Michael Conforto, which, yes, I know there's a lot of Dodgers fans that are concerned with the play with Michael Conforto. Guess what? At the very end of the day, if you wanted to go into October, you don't even have to start Michael Conforto or even play him at all, and I think the Dodgers would put a competent enough lineup out there, whether that's with Hae-Sung Kim, who's been playing really well as of late, or if you wanted to start Kike Hernandez because Kike Hernandez hits in October, there's no real way to be able, you could fit him to be part of the mix as well, either at second base or in center field, and move Andy Pages to one of the corners, and then you don't have to worry about Michael Conforto going out there and being an everyday player in the postseason. The biggest concern, however, is what do we do with all these pitching injuries? Because I think if you look at the evaluation of where the staff is right now, I feel comfortable, despite some of the struggles that Yamamoto has had a little bit as of late. I still feel very comfortable with Yamamoto starting either a game 1, 2, or 3. With Dustin May, I would be, at least with where he's at right now, I'd be totally fine if he was a number 4 starter in a postseason series. If he was anything greater than that, I would start to have some concerns, and real concerns, if he was a number 2 starter, only because of the numbers that he's put up this season. More of a mid 4s or lower 4s type of ERA. Doesn't scream number 2 or number 3 starter of what you would particularly want. Could change that, and I think that's Dustin May is certainly motivated to be able to make improvements, but that's just where I'm at with him right now. Then the question becomes, okay, who do you have for your other starters? Is Blake Snell going to be back? Is Shohei Ohtani actually going to be ready? And how healthy are the arms going to be in the bullpen? And with some of the arms, like, they're putting a lot of stress on Ben Casparius and Jack Dreyer. Are they putting too much stress on them, or what is it going to be like down the stretch for them as they start to pitch longer into a season than they've really ever have? Obviously, Ben Casparius was on the postseason roster last year, but they're utilizing Ben Casparius with a lot of unique ways for him this season to where it's a unique situation for Ben Casparius. Are they going to need additional arms, and where are the arms that they currently have at? I think they're waiting to see what happens with that. I know we as fans like big moves or like to see them be aggressive, but I think until they go out there and figure out what exactly is going to happen with the arms that they currently have, they're going to sit back and stall and wait before making any sort of moves, before being aggressive. But I think at the very end of the day, there's going to come to a point to where they want to be certain, they want to be sure of what they have going into October, especially with the ginormous expectations and all of the financial resources set into this particular team. They're going to do what they can to be able to go out there and make some sort of move at some point. So I'm curious to see what happens. Justin Lamas, hey Austin, I got a trivia question. Matt Sauer was a Rule 5 pick selected by which team in 2024 before being returned to which other team? Do you know which 2 clubs? I'll be honest, I have no idea what the 2 clubs are. That's actually a really good trivia question. I'm curious to see if anybody else has that down in the comment section, which I don't think anybody else has guessed. So if you know those 2 teams that Matt Sauer is part of in 2024, clearly I wasn't paying that close attention to Matt Sauer's career. Be sure to take a guess. Justin Lamas, if you're still around, put that in the comment section if you have it. And then Justin Lamas, by the way, hasn't Matt Sauer been optioned 4 times this year already, meaning he can only be optioned 1 more time this year before being exposed to waivers? I don't know. I think it's either he's been optioned 3 or 4 different times. I don't know which one it is, and it's possible that he was called up and then optioned back down as a result of injury, which might not particularly count. But that is something that the Dodgers organization is going to very well keep an eye on, is the number of options that you can have guys come up and then come down. It's the same thing why they won't. I think they might keep Justin Robleski on for at least maybe a week or two or a couple weeks in order to prevent him from using up all of his different options down at the minor league level, going up and down. So with Matt Sauer, I think it's 3 right now. It's possible that it's 4, in which case the Dodgers wouldn't really be able to, without exposing him to waivers, I believe, call him back up to the big leagues, in which case if they needed to designate somebody for assignment, that would be the reason why. But I believe he might still have 1 more after this going into here. But that's something to keep an eye on with Matt Sauer. He has, despite his last appearance, before his last appearance, I should say, provided the Dodgers with some pretty effective innings, or at least the first 20 or so innings was decently, pretty respectable at the big league level. So I'm sure they want to get as many innings out of him to limit some of the other innings on some of the other guys before we get to October. Vin1988, Austin, what's your favorite Dodgers lineup? I like when Kim and Edman are 8-9. Slot 4, Ohtani coming up. So with the lineup that they have, obviously I am more leaning into the matchups type of game, matchup leaning into righty versus lefty. It's going to be dependent on that, but just for a generic lineup, right now where things stand, I think Ha-Seong Kim would be the replacement over Michael Conforto if it was, and this was how they described it yesterday, Game 7 of a World Series. If you were to line up the defense exactly how you would want it, it would be, just talking about batting order also, it would probably be Shohei number 1 at DEH. I think they keep him in that spot, and they feel comfortable with him continuing to be in that spot, so I just leave him in that spot. Then Mookie Betts at shortstop, because he's been solid at shortstop defensively, and nobody else has really played a ton of defense at the shortstop. You can make the argument for Ha-Seong Kim, but I still feel more comfortable, surprisingly, right now with Mookie Betts at shortstop with all the work that he has put in this year. Freeman at first base. Then behind him, it becomes a question of, do I put Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith? We'll go with. This is tough to be able to make this sort of call. Either Teo or Will Smith. Do I want to add the power right there? We'll go with Will Smith. Then we'll go with Teo. Then we'll go Muncy. Will Smith catcher. Teo, I'll put in left field because in this situation, you'll see in a little bit. Teo left field. After Will Smith, Max Muncy at third base. I think he's fine enough at third base, or at least I want him to be part of the lineup. Then Andy Pages being out there in right field, which I think is the best position for him. Then you're talking about 8 and 9 being, we'll go Tommy Edman in center field, 8, and then Ha-Seong Kim, 9 at second base. If you're talking about the best lineup, Game 7 of the World Series right now, by the way these guys are playing, I think that's probably the case. Although we'll see, it has to be a continued evaluation process for guys like Ha-Seong Kim, who is not getting every single day reps, who probably should be getting every single day reps, or at least getting fairly consistent reps, not just because he's been hitting well, but because the Dodgers have to see what they have for him and allow him to be able to continue with the development process. That's the biggest thing, or any sort of big frustration with Ha-Seong Kim, is the development process in which it takes for younger players to be able to adapt to the major league level. One of the biggest benefits that Andy Pages has had this season, and dating back to last season as well, is he got every single day reps. We're starting to see other players that came up through the system, once they get every single day reps, starting to have a lot of success. If you have not checked the numbers with Miguel Vargas over for the White Sox, he turned his season around this year and is having a above average season for the Chicago White Sox. I think a 113 or so WRC plus after a really tough start of the season for Miguel Vargas. He started to make some adjustments and started to adapt. Michael Busch has had like a 140 WRC plus for the Chicago Cubs. He was part of the system as well. We've seen some of these players come up and be. Zach McKinstry is starting to have some success for the Detroit Tigers. Other players that were part of the system, once they got more regular playing time, start to be able to adapt to the big league level. And I think that is something that they're going to have to do at some point with the Hae-Sung Kim. And unfortunately, I think that's part of the struggles that we're seeing with Dalton Rushing, or the main part that we're seeing with Dalton Rushing is, and it's not his fault, Will Smith is an all-star catcher. They just aren't able to find ways to be able to get Dalton Rushing as part of the mix, and I think that's limiting his ability to be able to adapt offensively, because this is something that he's never done, and something he's never done because he's been too good for this is sit on the bench. And that's a really, especially when there is no mercy from big league hitters, or big league pitchers, I should say. When there's no mercy from big league pitchers, it is an infinitely tough battle for Dalton Rushing to be able to go and overcome that. So we'll see what happens for him and the rest of the Dodgers' younger players as they get adapted going forward. Let's see, CNAV, I agree with having Hae-Sung Kim in the lineup, pushing Conforto to the bench. I'm over that experiment. Let's look at some of the numbers with Michael Conforto right now. Just updated numbers. I know the average-wise does not look good for Michael Conforto, but let's look at some of the numbers offensively for where the Dodgers are at. If we can actually get the page to be able to load for Fangraphs. Fangraphs, I know, was having a little bit of issues sometimes this afternoon, just with some of the loading stuff that they have, but they are overall a really solid site. We'll get to some of the teams for the Dodgers. Let's go ahead and pull this up right now. Sorry, I'm trying to stall for this to load. Sometimes it takes a minute right now. So Michael Conforto, obviously, been a little bit of a struggle this year, and no doubt about that. And they're going to have to try to figure out exactly what to do with that, and if they want to move in a little bit of a different direction. Obviously, I made my stance pretty clear. I don't think that they're going to make that the number one priority, but just looking at the numbers right now, 173, 312, 286 slash line right now, 79 WRC plus, which is probably better than what people were anticipating with a 173 batting average, but is worth negative 0.3 Fangraphs WAR, in part because the defense isn't great in left field. So when you're not having great defense in the outfield, and when you're not able to hit, which with players like the profile of Michael Conforto, which this is the biggest thing with Rafael Devers, is he has to be able to maintain his ability to hit. Same thing with Michael Conforto, same thing with Teoscar Hernandez, same thing with Max Muncy. When you are offensive first type of players, you have to be able to find ways to be able to hit with a certain degree of consistency. And Michael Conforto, to this point of the season, has not been able to do so. I'm still expecting them to give him another couple weeks to see where things stand. But I also don't know what the next best option for them to do. The next best option, if they were to go in-house, that I would turn to would be more of a Ryan Ward. That would be what I would turn to, even before an Alex Freeland, only because I don't think they have an exact role for Alex Freeland laid out, and I think Ryan Ward is more polished of a hitter right now than Alex Freeland is, but I don't think that is within a lot of the character of the Dodgers to do that immediately. So we'll see what happens with Michael Conforto. Obviously, we'll see what happens we'll see what happens with them. Justin Lamas, with the trivia question, former Yankee pick selected by Kansas City, returned last year to the Bronx in May of 2024. That was Matt Sauer. He was part of the Yankees and the Royals last year. So, interesting trivia that you had, Justin. Thank you very much for doing that. CNAV, do you think Ryan Ward will ever get the call up to the big league club? He deserves it. It's not a question of does Ryan Ward deserve it or not. Because Ryan Ward, with his numbers on the season, he absolutely deserves it. Offensively has been an incredible force, not just in Oklahoma City, but basically throughout his entire tenure at the minor league level, and has just grown and adapted more in Oklahoma City. It was a little bit more of a struggle during his early bit in Oklahoma City over the past couple of years, but has really turned it on and been a prolific hitter for them. He deserves an opportunity to be able to be called up to the big league level. Do I think that they're going to do it? I don't honestly think so. Unless things really go sideways with Michael Conforto and they decide to go down that route with Ryan Ward, I don't really know. And I also don't necessarily know if that is the scenario with the Dodgers that I ultimately want for Ryan Ward. If the plan for Ryan Ward is maybe sit on the bench during a small stretch of time before you trade somebody, and then you're just part of the system as depth as outfield. What I don't want for Ryan Ward is to become the Hunter Fiducia of the outfield. That's what I don't really want for him. He's got nothing left to prove in Oklahoma City, as was stated, but I don't know if they're going to eventually call him up. If they were to tomorrow decide, hey, we're going to move off of Michael Conforto, he would be the guy that I would want the Dodgers to call up. I think profile-wise is kind of similar, meaning he's not the greatest defensive outfielder. He's going to rely a little bit more on his bat. We'll see if the Dodgers present him with an opportunity not only to be called up, but if they were to call him up, to give him an opportunity to be able to succeed as a player. We'll see what happens with him. Let's go to a couple of more comments before we get a little bit of something down on the farm. Continual good news with the Dodgers in their position player development. I want to get into that in just a minute. Let's see, Samuel Smith, Gold Glove, shortstop, and second base. Don't know exactly who you're talking about, but I'm assuming it's talking with Hae-Sung Kim, who really solid defensively at a lot of different positions. CNAV, who was the outfielder traded for Pepio and Tyler Glasnow, that was Johnny DeLuca. Yeah, that absolutely was. And Johnny DeLuca, I believe, is rehabbing or at least coming back from some type of injury, but he was having a lot of success early for Tampa Bay, who was able to prove himself quite a bit, and Tampa Bay is doing really well right now. Then CNAB, Boston needs a first baseman. Ward for Buehler. I don't really know if they... I mean, obviously Walker Buehler is going to be one of the names to watch going forward, and we'll see what happens with Boston. They just had a really good series against the Yankees, and then all of a sudden decided to trade Rafael Devers. I don't know if this is an indication of them being in sell mode, or rather that was a unique situation that they felt that they had to move off of during the immediate time frame. Ryan Ward, I don't really have a whole lot of read with him, particularly at first base. I think they're kind of throwing him out there to continually find ways to be able to get him at bats. I don't know how comfortable first base would be for him. I'd have to read into that a little bit more, or watch it a little bit more. Or actually, Casey or Coach Barakoff would probably, or Coach Holt as well, would probably be good references to be able to watch Ryan Ward and his actual defensive output from there. So we'll wait to see. I'm going to guess that they would probably want somebody maybe a little bit younger, only because that seems to be a lot of the trends with baseball, is to look for some of those guys who are a little bit younger. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and dive into some of the stuff that is happening down at the farm system. And we're going to use this with a little bit of a statistic that perhaps not everybody is familiar with. So this could be a little bit of an exercise. As we do on this show, I like to introduce different statistics for you guys as far as the advanced world of baseball is concerned, because I want you guys to be able to learn about all the different metrics and stuff that different teams are using, or different things that go into some of the behind the scenes type of things. And what we're going to do is we're going to highlight particularly first with a couple of guys that are part of the system, because I think that this is really cool what is going on within the Dodger system. So one of the statistics that I quote most often is WRC plus, weighted runs created plus. And it's a statistic designed to put it on a scale with 100 being league average. How good is a player in comparison to their actual league? I think it is one of the best statistics to be able to accurately compare other players, and takes into account a lot of different weights for different situations. For example, one of the reasons why I use weighted runs created plus as opposed to batting average is batting average doesn't take into account the quality of hit that is made, meaning that a single is just as good as a home run when it comes to batting average. Well, if you're talking about an outcome, if you're just making an evaluation, would I prefer a single or would I prefer a home run? every single time the answer should be home run, because that is an actual run that is on the board every single time for a team when they hit a home run. Similarly, a triple is better than a double, and a double is better than a single, and a single probably is better than a walk in a run expected situation. And what WRC Plus does is it puts it on a scale 100 league average, and then you have different evaluations. So if somebody has a 120 WRC Plus, you can do an easy comparison with somebody with a 113 WRC Plus. What you can't really do with WRC Plus is be able to make a comparison with guys of different plate appearances. For example, which is better for somebody? A guy that has 150 WRC Plus with 200 plate appearances, or a guy who has put up 150 WRC Plus for 20 plate appearances? Well, they have the exact same WRC Plus, so if you just use the metric of WRC Plus, you'd say they're exactly the same player. But I think the larger sample size shows that that player was able to provide more value to their team throughout the course of the year versus the player that put it up just with 20 plate appearances. And you can see the WRC Plus really vary over the course of small sample sizes. This goes into a statistic called weighted runs above average, WRAA. And this is actually one of the key components inside the equation for WRC+. I know this is a lot of nerd stuff. We'll get into the Dodgers related stuff in just a second. But weighted runs above average is the cumulative portion of that. And what weighted runs above average would mean that you can make an accurate comparison of this guy that had 150 WRC plus and 200 plate appearances versus the guy with a 150 WRC plus and 20, and say that the weighted runs above average for the 200 plate appearance guy might be 15, and the one with 20 might be 4. And the guy would put up 15 put up a lot better than the guy with 4 or 2 or whatever the weighted runs above average would necessarily be. And so I think this is a good way to be able to see, okay, just how much production have they put on above league average, weighted runs above league average. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the minor league baseball leaders for weighted runs above average, WRAA, across all minor league baseball for all minor league hitters. This is the top 3 hitters in minor league baseball, all 30 teams. Weighted runs above average. Number 1 is an outfielder within the Dodgers system, currently for Rancho Cucamonga. Congratulations to Rancho Cucamonga again on being the first half South Division champs within the California League. They'll be headed to the playoffs coming up in September. Eduardo Quintero has the number 1 player in minor league baseball by weighted runs above average, meaning he has cumulatively on an offensive output provided the most value for his respective team on the season. This combines all of the output that they've put across minor league baseball, so it combines different seasons as well, which we'll get to in just a second. Esmeralda Valdez in the Pittsburgh organization is number 2, but number 3 is the guy that they got back in the Gavin Lux trade, and Mike Soroto, who's put up a weighted runs above average of 24.2. Meaning that if we look at the Dodgers system, 2 of the guys that have been top 3 and most productive hitters in minor league baseball are in the Dodgers organization. And they're not Zaire Hope, they're not Josue Paulo, though we'll get to them in just a second. These are 2 guys that seemingly are breaking out this season for the Dodgers and providing a lot more depth for this organization. And we'll just see just how big the depth is right now, because these guys are not the only ones who are putting up high values for weighted runs above average, which, remember, this is a key component. This is the key component into WRC Plus and takes into account the more that you are able to play. So if we go to here, the Dodgers currently have 7 players with a weighted runs above average of 15 or more. They have Eduardo Quintero in Rancho, 25.7. Mike Sorotta, 24.2 between Rancho and Great Lakes. Ryan Ward, we talked about, 17.2 during his time in Oklahoma City. Zaire Hope, part of Great Lakes, 16.5. Josue Paulo, 15.9. Ching Sang Ko, I probably totally butchered that, down on the complex level at 15.8. And Elijah Hangline, who's the shortstop for Rancho, at 15.6. To have 7 players on June 16th of 15 plus weighted runs above average is remarkable. And to show you just how remarkable it is, these are for all of the organizations. Number of 15 plus weighted runs above average, WRAA, minor league players by org as of today. We have the Dodgers having 7 of them. No organization has 6 such players. No organization even has 5 such players. Detroit, Milwaukee, Minnesota, and the Mets have 4. You can see these clubs have 3, 2, 1, and 0. Which means that this group of players that the Dodgers have right here, the group of players that are able to cumulatively put up consistently well above league average offensive output, is really unique, at least to this point of the season, across all of minor league baseball. Why is this relevant? Why is this important? Especially because every single one of these players don't know if they're ever going to see the Dodgers uniform at all. A lot of talented players, but as we talked about before, players like Ryan Ward don't know if they fit in the exact same situation, and a lot of different outfielders that are part of the mix. Why do I go ahead and bring all this stuff up as we go back to me? It's because the Dodgers this season at the minor league level are having a lot of success position player wide. And they are putting their system in a position, especially because they're going to get an additional draft pick with what they got with the trade with Gavin Lux. They're going to put themselves in a position to where they're going to have the opportunity to, if they wanted to, make additional moves going forward. Or if you looked at a lot of those guys, most of those guys are at the lower levels of the system. In fact, all but one of them is at Great Lakes or below Great Lakes with the success that they're having. If they wanted to, they could also wait, which means that the options that the Dodgers have going forward they've got a lot of different options, and they can kind of pick and choose what is going to be the best opportunity for them to pursue going forward at the trade deadline, or with the young talent that they have, and with the Dodgers' need to be able to supplement their roster with young position player talent, they've got a lot of talent that is part of the system. And it's not just the top guys, the top names that are at the top of prospect rankings. There's a lot of guys that are even further down with that are having a lot of success. And the Dodgers are uniquely having a lot of success in their system right now. Shout out Eduardo Quintero, who is the top in all of minor league baseball in weighted runs above average, one of the key components in WRC+. And then Mike Sirota also with that, which with Mike Sirota, he's 3rd in all of baseball, and he has close to 60 less plate appearances than most everybody else, which if you put up the exact same number of plate appearances, it might be Mike Sirota, and probably would be Mike Sirota number 1 in all of minor league baseball. Just phenomenal stuff that the Dodgers are putting up, and this is important to understand the context of what the success that the Dodgers are having, because their system-wide is rolling on all cylinders. I would like to see Loons win some more games or go out there and clinch a playoff spot already, but I think the depth within the organization, position player-wide, is really healthy. Combine that with the success that they've had recently from a guy like an Andy Pages at the big league level, who I think everybody is really pleased with the offensive output and with the defensive output now that Andy Pages has been able to produce and just what he's meant to the club. The Dodgers position player development staff has taken some hits over the past couple of years, but I think you point to the numbers on here, and if you look at the overall big picture in comparison to other organizations, they are really solid. And what that's going to do, that's just going to open up additional opportunities for the Dodgers moving forward to be able to go out there and make additional moves when it is necessary to going forward. We'll get to a couple more comments before we wrap it up. We'll wrap it up in just about 2 or 3 minutes or so. I've got some other things that I've got to do. Let's see. Samuel Smith talking about Devers. The dude is not going to last. Let's see. With Devers, I don't really know exactly what they're going to do, or let's put it in this position. If I were the Los Angeles Dodgers, I probably would not have made that move, only with the Dodgers position having a lot of large contracts and with some concerns, especially defensively, with him not being the greatest defender, and with having Shohei Ohtani being the designated hitter. I don't think it would have made necessarily the greatest sense in the world to make that move. Although, if you want to do on one-on-one comparison with Rafael Devers and Max Muncy, I think Rafael Devers is probably a better player. But as far as the best fit, and with that potentially limiting additional opportunities that the Dodgers could pursue going forward, I wouldn't necessarily have made that. With Rafael Devers, he's going to have to hit to remain effective, especially if when Matt Chapman comes back, Matt Chapman has to be the third baseman, and I don't think they're going to move Rafael Devers to first base, or at least we'll see if they actually try to do that. And if he is the designated hitter, he has to be not just a 120 WRC plus type of hitter. He's got to remain and be a 140 plus WRC plus, 135 to 140 plus WRC plus type of player to live up to the contract that he is signed to. So we'll see what happens. He's going to be tough competition for the Dodgers to be able to face now more often now that he's in San Francisco. We'll see if the situation is a lot better for him in San Francisco than what it was in Boston. Let's get to a couple more comments right now. Hey, Austin, when is our boy Shohei Ohtani going to be called up to Double-A? He's been in Great Lakes for almost a full calendar year. I feel like it's time. We'll see what happens. The first half of the minor league baseball season, at least for Rancho and Great Lakes, is ending on Thursday, which means that the records restart 0-0 in the first half on Friday. And it was this week last year when you saw Shohei Ohtani get moved up from Rancho to Great Lakes. So it's totally possible that it could be this week, now that the first half has faded out, that you could see Shohei Ohtani potentially get the move up, especially with the guy we just talked about him, Eduardo Quintero, being the best hitter in all of minor league baseball by weighted runs above average. You could potentially see him get moved up, and then Shohei Ohtani, who's been at Great Lakes for a long time, potentially get moved up when they are ready to make that decision. So I would keep an eye out. Keep a very close eye out for some of the roster transactions for this week. Keep an eye out for Shohei Ohtani, just because he's been with the team for quite a long time. One of my favorite arms in the system I would also keep an eye out for, because I think it's possible at some point over the course of the next month or two that he could potentially be called up based on the success that he's having, is relief arm Carson Hobbs. Keep an eye out for Carson Hobbs. He's generating a lot of swing and miss, and whenever he does get the call up, which I don't know if it'll be this year, I don't know if it'll be the start for next season or whenever that is, we'll go into a little bit more depth on him, because he is a relief arm that you have to take note of with how well he's actually doing. But this week, big week, because the second half will be starting for a lot of clubs, especially at the lower levels of the minor league system. So it's possible it happens this week over the course of the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that. In 1988, with pitch counts being such a big deal, I think there should be a stat for batters working counts. I think I'd rather see Max Muncy get 10 pitches than just hitting a single on the first pitch. That's a really good point, and I don't think that there's an exact count or exact statistic that is regularly or publicly measuring, especially the number of pitches that you see. I guess you could calculate the number of pitches per plate appearance, which is, I believe, available, or at least it might be a little bit more difficult to be able to find, but I think you can do that. But as far as the number of long, let's say 6+ pitch battles, I think that would be a unique thing to be able to look at. And for somebody like Max Muncy, he is really good at being able to do that, which is an undervalued trait within the game, especially if it's able to attack some of those pitchers and just extend or just really lengthen the lineup or lengthen the number of pitches or bullets that they have to throw, as so-called said. Let's see, continuing on, just a couple more comments. Mr. Classic, Brewmaker, a long time, good to see you again. And History Man, go Dodgers and God bless. Showtime LA, also thanks for explaining weighted runs above average to me earlier on Twitter. Absolutely, more than happy to be able to talk some baseball with you guys. So that was a deep dive into a little bit of the system, what's going on right there. Might talk a little bit about some other guys. So I encourage you guys, talk or comment down in the comment section. Who are some other players that you guys want me to dive into a little bit more as far as guys in the system? Or is there any specific topic that you want me to dive into a little bit more? I know Casey and I, a couple shows ago, talked a little bit about some of the other arms that were part of the system that could potentially be called up. Jack Little was one of the guys that Casey had mentioned. I got to give him credit. Jack Little, at the very least, is part of the taxi squad situation. So he got called up. I went with someone more high swing and miss strikeout type of guys, which I think goes into a little bit more of the type of guys that I'm thinking of or trying to take a look out for. But Casey was totally right when it came to Jack Little and making sure that you guys knew and kept an eye on him. But be sure to let me know if there's any of those other guys that you want me to dive into a little bit more, or any specific topics with some guys, because I want to make sure that I'm giving credit and diving into some of the guys within the system. Tonight is going to be a big game for the Dodgers. It's going to be exciting because Shohei Ohtani is on the mound for the Los Angeles Dodgers, going against the San Diego Padres, entering into this 4-game series where there very well might be an opportunity for the Dodgers, hopefully at the very least, to be able to split, but hopefully to be able to take 3 out of 4 and further advance their division lead, especially because the Padres are not throwing out Nick Pivetta against the Dodgers this week, and they're without Jackson Merrill. With the Dodgers throwing out Shohei Ohtani, there's a lot of excitement around Dodgers baseball, and I couldn't be more excited to see what he's able to do tonight. Obviously, I'm not expecting him to go out and pitch a complete game. I think that would be really risky for them to even come close to that. But just seeing him out on the mound, even if it's just as an opener, is a bonus, is a benefit. Shohei Ohtani is the bonus pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's the 14th pitcher that other organizations can't have. And Dodgers are in a unique spot to where he is still ramping up. They can utilize him in big league games. They can utilize him without losing his offensive feature and without putting him on a rehab assignment. And with just how good Shohei Ohtani has been in the past, you have a lot of hope that he could provide not just an inning or 2 innings, but quality innings when he is on the mound, and quality innings that are not by the main guys that you have to make sure are not getting overworked. Any way that you can get that is a very good thing, and especially if it builds up Shohei Ohtani to being an ace-level pitcher, well, perhaps maybe the Dodgers don't have to utilize all of their resources down at the farm system to offload on pitching like we might anticipate them doing. Perhaps they can keep building the best operation in the game of baseball and not only have the best major league team, but also have one of the best stockpiles of talent down at the minor leagues, not for the sake of stockpiling a lot of guys, but for keeping as many options open to make this team as good as it possibly can be, not just for this year, but continually for years to come. I'm excited about tonight. Shohei Ohtani going on the mound. We'll see him live tonight, 7:10 Pacific at Dodger Stadium. If you're going to the game, you're very lucky. Hopefully you're already over by the stadium right now and get to go to the game super early, or get into the gate super early, or safe travels if you're headed out there. Otherwise, we'll be watching it live tonight, Shohei Ohtani on the mound. But that's going to do it here. Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. Thank you all for tuning in. The next time we will be live might be Wednesday. That would be at least the regular schedule that we have. I'll talk to Casey, see how he's doing. Make sure that it works out for me. Just letting you know, as far as Loon schedule for me, I am and should be at the games in Midland on Thursday and Friday, so I will not be available for a show Friday night. Maybe we might do a Saturday show. We'll see what's going on with the schedule that I have. Next week, I will also be at Loon's games, except I'll be in Fort Wayne, so if I think there at some point with some Dodgers Daily fans who are in Fort Wayne, so go check out the Loons because they'll be in Fort Wayne next week. You get to see some of the young Dodgers prospects. You get to see Mike Sirota. You get to see some of the other guys that are part of the system. So I'll be at a bunch of Loons games coming up over the course of the next couple of weeks, but I will still be on as much as I possibly can for you guys because you guys are the absolute best. Thank you again for tuning in tonight. Shohei Ohtani's on the mound. The Dodgers get to play the Padres. What could be better than this? Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Go Dodgers.